welcome to No Recipe Required. I'm Dave, and tonight I'm going to show you a pasta dish, spaghetti with walnut pesto. Now, the walnut pesto is fairly unusual, based on the same principles as a more traditional basil pesto. And this one uses, obviously, walnuts. But as opposed to like that green or herbaceous quality, this actually uses ricotta cheese for the main substance of the pesto, flavored obviously with walnuts, a little bit of Parmesan cheese. It's absolutely killer. We're going to make that, then we'll toss it with a little bit of spaghetti for spaghetti walnut pesto. Let's go ahead and get started.
Let's go ahead and show you how to make this pesto. I've got 3 garlic cloves. I'm going to throw in my food processor. And then our walnuts. Obviously, walnut pesto, we need a good amount of walnuts. It's probably a cup's worth, maybe a little bit more. Then I toast it off. Toasting brings out that natural, nutty flavor. And then I'm just going to pulse this in a food processor a few times like that until everything is ground down. Not into a fine powder, but definitely into little tiny pieces. Okay, so it definitely helps, to kind of pulse like that. That kind of knocks the walnuts down. And I wanted to get them down into kind of that fine, kind of soft or wet sand texture. Again, not really powder. Think like panko breadcrumbs. And that's really it for the food processor. We're just going to combine this with our other ingredients, and we'll have our pesto. Okay, so I've got our ground up walnuts here. To those, I'm going to add the ingredients to make our pesto. I need a little bit of salt in there, a couple pinches, some pepper. I'm going to add in about a tablespoon, maybe a tablespoon and a half of chopped parsley, a few tablespoons of Parmesan. Now, ricotta is kind of what holds the pesto together, and I use maybe 50%, maybe a little touch over 50% at least to start, of the quantity that I use walnuts. I'm going to get some olive oil in there. I'm just going to kind of mix everything together here and have it kind of come together, and this is what's going to form our nice pesto. And unlike obviously a basil pesto, this one is largely white, and it's going to look kind of thick like this, which is okay, although I think mine is looking a little too thick. So I'm going to throw in a little bit of olive oil and just maybe a touch more of the ricotta. Okay, so then once you got everything in your pesto mixed together, you want to give it a little taste. Make sure it tastes okay. This one does. And it's thick, but that's totally fine. When you add pasta to it, just add a little pasta water, thins out. So I'm doing a linguini pasta with our walnut pesto, but any pasta will do, any at all that you like. I kind of like the long style with this one, and the the broader noodle gives the pesto a little bit more room to stick. You want to push it down in there, stir it. Certainly when you get it in, and then every couple minutes just to make sure it's not sticky. Okay, so my pasta is about 30 seconds from al dente. So I'm going to grab a little pasta water, reserve that to the side, because this is a pesto that needs some of that extra liquid. I'm going to pull my pasta off. While I drain it, I'm going to heat up a pan that we're going to put the pasta into once we come back. Okay, so we're back. I just drained the pasta. I'm going to add about 2 tablespoons of water back to my hot pan. I'm going to add a tablespoon of butter. Now, this pesto is not really a pesto that we cook over a lot of heat. So once I warm this up and get it to temperature, we're just going to take a couple of our tablespoons of pesto and add it directly to the pasta. Now notice, while I've got it on the heat still, pesto is so high up, it's still not really cooking. I'm just letting everything come up to temperature. That water is melting, that butter's melting in there. I'm going to throw a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, and then I'm going to kill the heat and just kind of stir this pesto in, let it dissolve in the liquid and that butter until it tosses and comes together. You can always, we've got a little bit more pasta water, I can always add more of that, or I can add more of my walnut pesto if needed. So I'm just going to keep stirring and get this incorporated, and we'll come back in a second. Okay, so I got everything mixed together, but it was looking a little bit thick, so I am just going to add a little bit more water. I'm going to hit it with a final little glug of good olive oil, and then we'll plate it up. Okay, so let's go ahead and plate up our spaghetti or linguini with walnut pesto. I'm going to pile it high with that little twisting motion. You know, the cheese that kind of melts in there almost makes it look like a bit of an Alfredo sauce. You can throw a little bit of extra Parmesan cheese there. And we've got our linguini with walnut pesto. I'll see you next time on No Recipe Required.